What's up, Tiger Gang? This is JT from the Poco Moonshine family. We're back again with another episode of Chatting with Carnivores. Today we got Semi-Retired Bob. How you doing, bud?
I'm doing pretty good. How about yourself?
I'm doing great, man. I'm looking forward to hearing your story and chatting with you about some carnivore and maybe see if you got some more tips that I don't got. But let's start out. Where are you from and where are you at now?
Okay, well, where I'm from is southeastern Ohio. I now live in Nebraska. I have a piece of land in Texas that I'm moving to sometime. I got to build my own house when I get down there, so the sooner the better.
Are you going to be homesteading down there, or is it just?
Yeah, no, I'm gonna be working on starting a homestead. I'm gonna start off with a shipping container, put a roof over top of that, insulate the shipping container. I figured that'll take me 2 winters to get all of that done because I've never actually built anything before. So it's going to be a learning experience. But once I get it built to where I think I can live down there year round, I'm going to move down there year round. And that's when I'll start putting in some chickens and some goats. And I've got 10 acres, so maybe even a cow or two. Just depends on how quickly I can rejuvenate the soil down there because, it's not great soil living out in the middle of the desert.
No, absolutely. I love homesteading. So, are you going to be vlogging any of that?
Oh yeah, I've
That'd be cool
I've
to
been
watch.
I've been doing daily content for more than a year now. I don't see that changing anytime soon. There may be a small lag while I get my internet figured out down there. It looks like I'll be able to use one of the local services looking at their map, but if that doesn't pan out, then I can always go with Starlink.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's a good idea. So, what's your history with food? You got any battles as you grew up with food?
I didn't really have that much of a battle with food growing up. The whole thing, I was raised in the mid 70s, which put me squarely in the middle of, my mom was always heavy and she believed that margarine was better than butter and seed oils was better than butter. And, the whole food pyramid thing was just becoming a thing as I was going through high school. So I was a little bit on the heavy side, but not terribly heavy because, I was in sports, I was in the band, and I was working my way towards going into the Army, which I did the day after I got out. The day after I got out of high school, I graduated on a Sunday and Monday morning left for the Army.
Wow. So, how was that? How was the Army like? What's the food like in the Army?
Actually, the food in the Army at that time was great. I mean, we had pork chops, of course, with all the fixings for lunch and steak every night. But it's not like that anymore. But it was not the pork chops and the steak that caused the problems. I'm sure it was all of the other stuff because the food in the Army gets a bad rap, but it really wasn't bad. In fact, it was quite good.
So, what health issues brought you to carnivore?
Okay, well, that's where everything sort of begins. I was in the Army, and I was discharged in 1983 because they discovered I had gout. I woke up one morning, and if I had known what it was, I would have just endured it because I wanted to make the military my career, but I had no idea. So I went to the infirmary, and they diagnosed me with gout because it felt like my foot was broken, and we had just jumped out of airplanes the day before, so I thought perhaps I landed wrong. But they kicked me out because I had gout, and the gout diet that the service doc gave me, I went and found a private doctor after that, and he gave me the exact same diet, which was, whole grains, fruits, vegetables. Don't eat a lot of meat. If you're going to eat meat, only fish and chicken, and just 2 or 3 ounces twice a week. That's all the meat you're supposed to get, because as we knew at the time as fact, come to find out later, it wasn't so factual, but they knew as fact at the time that eating meat causes gout. That's just the way it was. So I followed his advice, and I, over the course of the next 25 plus years, slowly sunk further and further into bad health. Because I knew I was getting heavier, but there was not much I could do about it because I'm following the diet they give me. And of course, as we knew at that time in the mid to late 80s, if you're getting heavy, all you had to do was eat less and move more. That's all there is to it. Just eat less, move more, you're going to lose weight. But every time I tried to move more, I'd get a gout attack, which set me back a week or two. And then during that time, I'd put on a couple more pounds and then start a new program, and then have another gout attack. And it just kind of gradually built to, I found myself at about 290, 300 pounds. And that's when I was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. So I did actually make a few gains because, the nutritionist at my doctor's office put me on what she called a carb-controlled diet. And it sort of worked for a little while, but I'm not sure if it was the carb-controlled diet or if it was the fact that for the first 3 months, because I lost my CDL. I was driving trucks at the time. I lost my CDL because I couldn't get a medical card because I had diabetes. So I went down and lived with my mom, who was a nurse. And in her house in New Orleans, she had a swimming pool just outside the back door. So she cooked all my meals for me, and I went out and walked in the pool for a couple of hours every day. And the walking in the pool for a couple hours every day got me down to, I won't say I was in great shape, but I got back down to about 280 pounds at that point. And then I went back to work, and everything slowly started sinking downhill again there. Of course, I kept trying to follow the gout diet and combine that with the diabetes diet, which was all basically the same thing. And all that did was 5.5 years ago led me to a triple bypass surgery. And after I did what they call cardiac rehab, which is basically you go to the hospital, they hook you up to an EKG machine, and you exercise so they can watch and make sure your heart's not going to go stupid while you're doing exercises. And part of that cardiac rehab is nutrition training. But it was the same old crap that I'd been told before, almost exactly the same thing as the gout diet and the diabetes diet, except, of course, she said, oh, you shouldn't eat eggs. Eggs are terrible for you. And they suggested that I cut way back on my salt. And that's where things spiraled out of control. I cut back on the eggs, which was my main source of food at the time, because I discovered that eggs did actually help stabilize my blood sugar. But obviously it was the eggs that gave me a triple bypass. I mean, there's no questioning that. So things slowly, spiral on out of control. And I found myself, it was actually back in March of 2022. I'm sitting in my camper trailer down in North Carolina, basically just sitting there waiting to die, watching YouTube videos. And a guy by the name of Dante Ferrigno popped up on my feed. I have no idea how he got there because I had always been van life, camping, photography, off-grid living, homestead living, that's the kind of stuff I watched on YouTube. And this Dante Ferrigno video pops up that's called 125 Days of the Lion Diet. Well, I didn't know what the heck the lion diet was, but he had a before and an after picture on his thumbnail, which I'm like, well, that looks pretty good. I clicked on it and I watched it, and it didn't take very long to figure out, well, this is just a more extreme version of the ketogenic diet, of which I'd heard of. But of course, I knew I couldn't do because I had gout, and you cannot eat a lot of meat when you have gout. So, but I watched that, and because I'd watched that, the next time I clicked the YouTube homepage, This country doctor from the middle of Tennessee by the name of Ken Berry popped up. I didn't know who the heck Ken Berry was. I'm like, well, let's hear what he has to say. And he had a couple of good videos, and he had a whole ketogenic playlist and a whole carnivore playlist, and everything he was saying made sense. But of course, I have gout, so I can't do any of that stuff. But I did notice he was going live that night. So when the time came, I jumped into his live stream, and I was hit by the fact that there are already 2,000 people here in this live stream. There's no way I'm going to get a question answered. But because I'd taken the time to go there, I went ahead and typed in my question. I have gout. Is there a version of this diet I can do? And, if I had known it was going to be this successful, I would have written down. I do know it was one of his female moderators that sent me a message back. So it was either Mitzi or Paola. I can't tell you which one it was. It was one of the two that sent me back a message that says, Bob, eating meat does not cause gout. Here's a link to Dr. Berry's gout video. And I'm like, what do you mean eating meat doesn't cause gout? I've known that as fact for 40 years. What do you mean eating meat doesn't cause gout? But I went out and I watched his gout video. And then I noticed he had a couple others, and I watched, and I'm like, this just can't be right. There's no way this is right. So I did some more searching on YouTube and found Dr. Fung and Dr. Chafee and Dr. Baker and Dr. Paul Mason, watched a few of those and went, you know what? I'm going to give this a try. It's either going to kill me or it's going to help me. And what I was really looking for at the time, the whole reason I was attracted to it was because at the time, besides the 13 drugs in the morning that I was taking and the 9 drugs at night that I was taking massive amounts of pain pills to get through the day. And I was just looking for a little pain relief because I could barely stand for 2 to 2.5 minutes at that time. And I thought, well, I'm not living much of a life now anyway, so this is either going to kill me or it's going to make me a little better. Either way, it's going to be a win. So I jumped in head first, and that was the day before my 59th birthday back on May the 9th of 2022. And the rest, as they say, is history.
How long have you you been carnivore?
16 months, and today is the 19th, so 16 months and 10 days.
Wow. And how's the gout doing now since you've been on carnivore this long, eating meat?
I haven't had a single gout attack since I started.
You're kidding me, Bob.
Not one.
You're kidding me.
No.
That's amazing. Now, where do you think this comes from that they keep saying with such confidence that meat causes gout, and then here you are eating nothing but meat and you not having an attack?
Well, I think it's because we have, in all nutrition, all of our science is very poor science, and it's all associative science. And I think what happens is because they find uric acid crystals in the joints of people that are having gout attacks, and eating red meat does raise your uric acid levels. That's the association they've always made, even though that's completely false. Because if you actually check, even you right now, not having gout attacks, if they were to draw some synovial fluid, which is the fluid at the end of your nerves in all of your joints, they would find some uric acid crystals even in your joints. That's not what causes gout. It's the surrounding inflammation. And the inflammation that's chronic and systemic is what leads to gout. Now, some people get it worse than others, and I was one of the bad ones, but eating meat by itself does not cause gout. It might make it worse if you have all of the other inflammations going with it, but eating meat does not cause gout. And I think that's, like I said, the associative data is probably where the problem comes from. Because, I mean, if you go out to Dr. Google right now and type in gout diet, the exact same handout that I was given in 1983 will be the first 10 to 15 things that pop up on gout diet when you do a Google search for it.
So would you suggest if anybody's suffering from gout that they try carnivore diet?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, if you're having gout attacks now, what's the worst that can happen? You have another one? But what's the best thing that can happen?
They stop, right?
You don't get them anymore.
No, that's great advice. What other benefits have you seen since being on carnivore besides less gout attacks, which is amazing in itself?
Oh, well, let's see if I can remember the whole list here. Of course, I had arthritis very badly. I mean, when I first started, this was about the best fist I could make. My hands were completely locked up with arthritis, and now, as you can see, they work just fine.
Wow.
I have spinal stenosis. I still have a little bit of pain in my back when I turn wrong, but it is 99% better. Before, I could not stand for 2 to 2.5 minutes without severe pain, and now I'm out there walking every day. Sometimes it's just a mile or two. Sometimes it's a lot more. My biggest walk to date has been just under 15 miles with a 20-pound backpack on my back.
Can't have a gout attack doing that, man, I tell you.
No. And, a couple other little things. My fatty liver is gone. My chronic kidney disease is gone. My kidney and liver markers are better than they've been in decades. That little pesky thing, type 2 diabetes, that's gone. As I said, I was taking 13 pills in the morning and 9 at night, plus a whole whack of pain pills. I don't take any prescription medication today, none whatsoever. Those are all gone. And as one other minor little side effect, I've lost about 155 pounds.
That's amazing, man. I'm telling you, those are some great results, dude. What are you eating in a week? What does a week's worth of carnivore eating look like for you?
Well, I primarily eat once a day, and sometimes because I'm doing so much other stuff now around the house, occasionally I'll have a second meal. And if I have a second meal, that'll just be a small meal of 6 to 8 eggs scrambled. A normal meal for me is, depending on how big of a roast or big of a package of meat I have, between 1 pound and 1.5 pounds of beef and 6 to 12 eggs. If it's a small steak that I got on sale that isn't quite 1 pound, then I'll have close to a full dozen eggs with it. But if it's like tonight, I didn't have any eggs because the roast I cooked today was a little over 2 pounds.
Oh,
so I had a 2-pound roast. It was actually 2.1 something.
If you could have your eggs served only one way the rest of your life, what would they be, Bob?
Oh, scrambled.
Scrambled?
Yeah.
That would be mine too. What about your favorite cut of beef? What's your favorite cut of beef?
Well, obviously ribeye, but
Ribeye.
Given how expensive ribeye is, I actually like chuck roast really well.
Chuck roast?
It's not quite as good as a ribeye, but as long as you cook it low and slow, I either throw it in the crock pot for 4 or 5 hours, or the one today, it was still frozen, so I just wrapped it up in aluminum foil, stuck it in the oven at 350 for 4 hours, and it was perfect.
You ever try chuck eye steak?
Yeah, I actually just did last week when I was over at the grocery store.
What do you think of it?
It was really good. The only, I just happened on it because it was Cassie, I think, at Carnivore Quest, that was talking about chuck eye steaks. And in that very day that I had watched her video, I went over to the grocery store, and they didn't have much in the way of beef in the markdown bin because I shopped there first. And it was all pork and chicken. But I started digging underneath, and down underneath there was this small package of steaks that was like, it was 1.25 pounds. And it was $6. But I'm like, hey, center cut chuck eye steak. Cassie just talked about this. I'll buy it and take it home. It was really, really good. I have no idea how much it costs normally, but on sale in the manager's markdown bin for $6, that was well worth it.
People keep comparing it to ribeye. What would you compare it to? Is it similar to the ribeye?
Well, I can't really make that comparison because the chuck eye that I got was a center cut, so all of the surrounding meat had been taken off of it. It was just the center cut, and there was a little bit of fat on it, but it was not as fat as a ribeye. But I'm assuming that a whole chuck eye steak would have about the same amount of fat as a ribeye, because as I understand, it's basically the same cut of meat, just comes from a different section of the animal.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned walking. Besides walking, what does your exercise look like for those wondering? Especially people with gout wondering what you're doing for exercise.
Oh, what am I not doing for exercise? I, of course, am now cutting my own grass and doing all my own yard work. I go to the YMCA 4 days a week.
Wow.
2 days a week, I walk in chest deep water into the swimming pool as hard as I can go for about a half hour. The other 2 days, I work out on a cable machine. I'm working my shoulders to try and get some more strength in my shoulders, because from my heart surgery, my sternum never healed right. And I spent the last 5 years not lifting more than 5 pounds at a time, because anytime I tried to lift something heavier than 5 pounds, it felt like my chest was going to explode.
Wow.
But that has completely healed, and I'm now strengthening my shoulders on the cable machine. I do push-ups, I do sit-ups, I do wall pull-ups. I can't do a real pull-up yet, but I'm doing pull-ups against the wall. I just a few weeks ago started back to dance class, so I'm tap dancing one night a week. I think that's about it. And on top of all that, of course,
used to have gout, man. That's amazing.
Oh yeah.
Dude. I'm telling you, if people are watching with gout, man, hold it in there. Hold some faith, man, because Bob is tap dancing. He's walking around the pools like he's killing it. What was you'd say? What was a tough part about, or if it was there a tough part about doing the carnivore diet, getting on that for you?
I never really there was one tough part, and let's just say, because I did not take Professor K's advice, and because I hadn't found him yet, I did not transition slowly into the carnivore diet. I was standard American diet on May the 8th, and on May the 9th, I was a carnivore. And as most people know, if you change from standard American diet to carnivore, your first 2 or 3 weeks don't have any plans to travel more than a couple of steps from the bathroom, because it is sudden and it is explosive, and we'll just leave that at that. That was, for me, that was the hard part.
It wasn't kicking the carbs or sugar drinks or nothing like that?
The Diet Coke I got rid of, because I'd been on Diet Coke for quite some time. I cut that out by I had watched Nisha Berry's stopping soda video, where she bought sparkling water.
That's what my wife did.
She'd pour like 3/4 of a cup of Coke and then throw some sparkling water. And then after a few days of that, reduce the Diet Coke, add extra sparkling water. And I thought I was going to need another 6-pack or so. So I actually went out and bought 12 more bottles of Diet Coke. And they sat on my kitchen floor and expired, because I just didn't need it anymore. And it's probably been, well, at this point, more than a year since I've had anything other than water and coffee to drink.
Now, do you feel like, did you have a lot of cravings on the standard American diet?
It's hard to say, because I ate a lot. I did, even then, I was on kind of a 1 meal a day plan, because I hated to cook. So, I would wait till it was time in the evening, and then I'd get a large pizza from Papa John's and an order of breadsticks and a dessert pizza, and eat the whole thing. Now, it was 1 meal a day, so that may have helped a little something. I don't know, but I was eating a lot. And of course, I should explain, that is not following all of the diets that I tried to follow. I kind of went completely off the rails. I spent most of 2021 and 2022 down in New Orleans taking care of mom. It was supposed to be just a couple hours a day helping her with meals and that kind of stuff, but she got sick literally as I was driving to New Orleans to take care of her. My little brother had been living with her, but he got a new job in Chicago, and she refused to move to Chicago. So I went down to stay with her and help her out, and she got sick as I was traveling to New Orleans, and I spent a year plus down there basically as a 24/7 caregiver. And that it was the stress of that caused me to go completely off the rails to where I was eating pizza and cookies and cakes and everything I get my hands on. And I'm pretty sure I'd probably ballooned up very close to 350 pounds at that point. I don't know for sure how heavy I was because I had no expectation of weight loss when I started this. I did not step on the scale for the first 2 weeks of the carnivore diet. And then when I noticed that things were starting to improve that rapidly, I thought, maybe I have lost a little weight. I jumped on the scale, and at that point, I was at 315 pounds. So when I say I've lost 155 pounds, that's from the 315 mark. I actually suspect it was much closer to 340 pounds or so that I started at.
Now, you just mentioned when you got stressed, it threw you off the rails. What do you do now when you get stressed out to not go off of carnivore? What helps you in case other people are feeling stressed in their life?
Well, the reality is I have basically a stress-free life now. Mom is in an extended care facility, and I don't have to worry about her there because she's about 5 blocks from my sister's house in Ohio. And my sister walks over to take care of her 3 or 4 times a day, even though she's in they don't call them nursing homes anymore. They're called extended care facilities or something. But anyway, she's
Assisted
there.
living.
Yeah, I'm fully retired. Well, I still go to work on Saturday night at the miniature golf course, but
I was going to say you got to change it to fully retired Bob now.
No, because that's not where semi-retired comes from.
Okay, well, explain that. Where's semi-retired come from?
Semi-retired comes from after my heart surgery. I spent my entire rehab period from that 3.5, 4 months planning on going back to work. And then there was this little clause that nobody saw until like a couple days before I was supposed to go get my physical to get my license back and go back to work, that the doctor had to sign off and say that my chest was completely healed. What does completely healed mean? I don't know. But if you look at my sternum, which I'm not going to pull my shirt up and show you, but the sternum is made of 3 bones, and the one on the bottom turned on its side. So it's when I lay down, I literally have a bone sticking out of my chest about that far.
Wow.
So the doctor would not sign off on the form for me to go back to work. So I got rid of my rig and all that. And one of my cousins said, well, since you can't drive your rig anymore, does that make you semi-retired? And that's where it comes from.
I was wondering about that. I'm glad you addressed that because, I've been hearing the name. I was like, I gotta talk to him about that. So you led me right into that one.
Sure.
What do you, what would you say to people who think the carnivore diet, you're going to be deficient in nutrients and stuff, and it's not a healthy diet?
Well, the first thing I would point to is Kelly Hogan. She doesn't seem to be very deficient in anything if you've watched any of her videos. And then I'd point at Rick at Charger Mopar. He's been doing this for 40 years. If there was something deficient in the diet, surely it would have shown up by now. But even if it takes a little longer than 40 years for it to show up, let's say it's at 41 or 44 years where the deficiencies really rear their ugly heads. I'm 60 years old. I've had a triple bypass surgery. So if it takes, say, 45 years for the deficiencies to show up, that puts me at 105 years old. I think the odds of me making it to 105, having had a triple bypass surgery at 55 years old, even as healthy as I'm living now, aren't really that good. So I'm not going to worry about it. And neither should you, because where they're going to say, oh, well, there's no science supporting the carnivore diet, I would say, well, if you look at how nutrition research is done, there is no science supporting any diet. Regardless of what some of the gurus of the various different types out there want to tell you, there is no science supporting any kind of diet. And when I say science, I mean hard facts, repeatable science, not associative, as one of the people I follow now very closely, Professor K, says. Associative data, think of it like this. You go to Miami Beach, and the first aid tent reports a certain number of sunburns on a bright, sunny day. And the ice cream vendor showed a lot of ice cream sales. And if you were to chart those two on daily by daily basis, you'd find a very close association between how many people get sunburned and how many ice creams have been sold. But to think that you can stop the sunburn by limiting the ice cream sales is absolutely retarded. It doesn't work. That's not real science. And there is no real nutrition science currently. Dr. Sean Baker's group at Rivero and several others are doing the actual research as we speak. There are currently over 400 actual scientific clinical trials going on right now that by the time the Carnivore Diet movie comes out, we should be getting preliminary data from those as well. So we will have actual scientific data to go along with the Carnivore Diet movie and present it to the world as a package, which I think will finally shut some of the other people on the other side of the aisle up, because they have zero science backing their way of eating.
I love the way you put that. Now, you mentioned earlier one of the tough parts you said when you started was not being that far away from the bathroom. Besides that tip, not going that far away from the bathroom when you're starting carnivore, what's 3 tips you could give someone who's just starting out on their carnivore journey?
Number 1 tip, I actually just talked about this today, is just take it one day at a time. Don't worry about your macros. Don't worry about counting this and counting that. Just figure out what carnivore foods you will enjoy and eat those. Take it one day at a time at the start, because, just every morning when you wake up, say, today, I'm just going to eat my carnivore foods. And then tomorrow morning when you wake up, you can go, hey, I feel just a little bit better. And then say to yourself, today, I'm just going to eat carnivore foods. And take it one day at a time until that one day at a time becomes habit. And then you've won. It's over at that point. The next tip, because at some point during your carnivore journey, whether it's at 1 month or 3 months or a year, however long it takes, depending, of course, on how much weight you have to lose and how unhealthy you were with all of the other things. For me, I didn't start walking until I was 4 months into it. I started on May the 9th, and on September the 1st, I went out for my first walk. You don't have to walk 20 miles to start. Start off just going to the mailbox and back. And then the next day, take a couple steps past the mailbox. Just get 1% better every day in everything you're doing. Take little small steps, get 1% better, and those 1% over the course of a year will add up to huge gains. Let's see here. That was just 2. Third one. don't listen to all the gobbledygook out there on the internet. There are so many people that are going to try and convince you that what you're doing isn't right. Just ignore them. Ignore me. If you don't connect with me and you don't think I am the person you want to listen to get your advice from, listen to JT or listen to Dr. Barry, or find 2 or 3 or 4 that you really connect with. They say things in the way that you really understand what they're saying to you, and ignore all the other noise. Because there are plenty of people, as I say on my channel, eating on the other side of the aisle that are going to try to convince you that what they do is right and what you're doing is wrong. What I would say is, every 30 days, stop and assess. Do you feel better today than you did 30 days ago? Okay, keep going. If you don't feel better, then perhaps you should address it and maybe cut something else out or add something in. This is where the N=1 experimentation comes in, because not everybody is going to have the exact same carnivore diet. In fact, everybody's is going to look just a little bit different. So figure out what foods agree with you and stick to those. And if it's working, there's no reason to change. If it's not working, try tweaking something. If you've always had dairy and now all of a sudden you don't think you're progressing as fast as you should, try cutting the dairy out. Or if you've been doing lion diet, which is just meat, salt, and water, and you don't think it's progressing quite as much as you can, maybe throw some fatty fish in there. Just play with it a little bit, because everybody's carnivore diet is going to look different, which is why I don't do very many what I eat in a day videos, because so many people will look at somebody else's what I eat in a day video and they'll just think, oh, this person looks fantastic, I'm going to copy what they're doing. And that's an okay place to start, but your diet is not going to look the same as my diet by the time you're done doing all of the adjustments that you need to do to it.
That was a beautiful answer, man. That was awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Like, those are some really good tips. I hope you guys are listening. Those are excellent tips if you're starting out. What about social situations? Like if you're out with friends or family and they're getting on you about your diet, oh, you're just eating meat again, or you can't just eat meat, you got to have vegetables. What do you say about that?
Well, I'm not the best person in the world to answer this question because I have no friends and I go nowhere.
Oh, come on, we're friends.
But that being said, the couple of people, because I go to the same grocery store all the time, and the little old lady that works the cash register, I've known her for a couple of decades now. And she's like, well, how come you're just buying meat? And I said, because that's all I eat. And she's like, well, you can't just eat meat. I said, why not? You remember when I got out of the hospital from my heart surgery, how I had to get one of the little motorized carts and tool myself around the store to get the meat? And now I'm walking through the store. Have you noticed that I'm 150 pounds lighter than I was? What do you mean I can't just eat meat? And yeah, that's what I say to everyone. I said, if you know of a better diet, I'm willing to listen, but one of us knows the right diet and the other one is you.
Yeah, and what a victory. Like you said, you were just using one of those electric carts to get around the grocery store, and now you're walking around the grocery store. Like, that's amazing. Just that in itself,
Yeah.
Because if anybody else is using those little carts, man, you don't have to. You can be just like Bob and start walking around the store. You just got to change your thoughts, change your diet, and see what happens, right?
Yeah. And, that's the mental side of it is very important. I mean, you just have to decide, and I can't do that for you. I can't even give you great advice on that. All I can tell you is that you have to find your why. You have to find...
What's your reason why, Bob?
Well, originally, my why was I want to be able to stand for more than 2.5 minutes without severe pain. That was a fairly good why, but I blew past that in the first 90 days. Then I started walking, and I wanted to be able to walk a little bit more here and there. And since then, I have bought land in Texas, which I talked about earlier, but now my why is I want to be physically fit enough to go to Texas and build myself a homestead. And I want to continue progressing. I still have some work to do on getting up and down off the ground, because if I can't get up and down off the ground, I can't sleep in a tent. And I want to be able to sleep in a tent because in 2025, it's still a year and a half away. I want to through hike the Appalachian Trail. It's just
That's some good goals.
It's just a little tiny trail out east. It goes about 2,100 miles from Georgia to Maine. And I'm going to do the whole thing. Provided I can
believe
get
you
healthy enough to get up and down off the ground.
Yeah.
And I'm working on it slowly but surely. I mean, there's exercises that I do. I mean, I practice getting up and down off the floor every day. And as I don't know if you've seen my interview with Coach Bronson yet, or my interview with Carnivore Muscle, Jonathan. And they both said the same thing. You know, your body will react to what you're doing. So the things you want to do, you just have to keep doing them. If it's hard now, keep doing them, and eventually it will not be hard anymore. And that's what Coach Bronson calls functional fitness.
And you're killing it, Bob. I love these answers, dude. So eloquent, man. Let's go through a couple comments. Is that cool, Bob?
Sure.
Cool. Peachy Pam, thanks for being a new member. John, thanks for being a member too. Hello, Carnivore Backwoods. You hear John? He's a great guy.
Yeah, I see him in comments from here to there.
Susie Underwood. Hello, JT and Bob. How you doing, Susie?
Yeah, Susie's one of my regulars. She watches almost all my videos. I can almost always count on seeing a comment from her.
Hey, he sees you, Susie. Appreciates it. It doesn't go unnoticed, right, Bob?
Yeah, and there's Bubba Rob.
Bubba, my two carnivore idols. Aw, thanks, Bubba. Man,
Bubba Rob is great.
He is, dude. I talk to him quite a bit, man. We're really close. And right now I'm building a friendship with Bob, you guys, and we're having fun talking here. Time is flying by, dude. I'm telling you. Primal Mike. Hi, family. How you doing, Mike? He's a very inspirational dude.
Oh, yeah. Mike's got a great channel. If you're not watching Mike, you should be. He's a regular commenter on my videos as well.
He stayed up all 24 hours for the live stream. And he did. He's
got more stamina than I do. I ended up going to bed about 2 o'clock in the morning because I had to get up at 5:15 to be ready for my 6 o'clock spot.
Yeah, no, you did pretty good too, man. Everybody, I liked it too that people were trying to stay up with us, you know, and everybody. It was like one of those things like you do as a kid. You're like, we're pulling an all-nighter. You doing it with your buddies, you know, and you see who falls asleep first. Then you put his hand in warm water and tickle him with a feather, you know, stuff like that. But it felt like that, man. Everybody was coming together and just like, no, man, we're still here. We're staying up too. I was like, man, it was just such a fun thing to be part of, man. It really was, man. And we're making history. Like, it's awesome. And to do it with you guys and kind of have that atmosphere like it's a big slumber party. It was awesome, dude. Lucia. Bob, can you give her a Lucia?
I don't know who Lucia is.
Oh, just say Lucia.
Lucia?
Yeah, there you go. I always try to get my guests to say she's a very good gal, and she's always commenting on here. JT says, "Oh, stay so busy and involved. Best interview." Oh, thank you. You know, I'm a good interview because I got good guests like Bob who got great stories, and they're willing to come on here and share it with people. Love to hear more about West Texas.
Oh, gee, what's to say? I am as far west as you can get. I am in, what the heck? It's not El Paso County. It's the next county over, but I'm 90 miles due east out of El Paso, which puts me about 16 and a half miles from a little town called Van Horn, Texas. I'm 6.5 miles north of I-10 out in the desert. The closest thing to me about 12 miles away is Jeff Bezos' launch pad, where he sends his stuff up into space from. And right now it is just bare land. There's no electricity lines anywhere near, and I'm not planning on doing them. There's no chance of drilling a well there, so I'm going to build a rain catchment roof to catch rainwater to drink. I'll have to have it hauled in, of course, for the first year or two, and it is just bare land. It's just a bare chunk of desert, and I'm going to turn it into Bob's little oasis in the middle of nowhere.
Dude, that is so. I cannot wait to watch those vlogs, Bob. Because I don't know if you know, I'm a big homesteading guy, man. I don't homestead because I'm a city dude. So I've always been obsessed with watching other people who have that knowledge and that passion. I have a passion for watching it, but I don't have the skills to do it. So I enjoy watching people do it. So please vlog.
I don't have the skills to do it either, but I have books. I have books, and I've watched a lot of YouTube videos. I mean, all the way around, about greening the desert and how to do permaculture and hugocultures and shipping container homes and earth bag homes and rammed earth homes, and the list just goes on and on and on and on.
I'm looking forward to watching you do that, man.
Let me see if I can dig out my Bible here real quick. This is the big one here. Oh, it's green. You're not going to see it.
God dang, green screen.
It's fourth edition. It's called Back to the Basics, A Complete Guide to Traditional Skills. It's a backyard guide to buying and working land, raising livestock, generating your own energy, enjoying your harvest, household skills and crafts, and more.
It's called Back to the Basics?
Yeah. Fourth edition.
Fourth edition? I'll get that for Carrie.
Yeah, Carrie probably already has it.
Yeah, I'll have to ask him. If he doesn't have it, I'll buy it for him.
Mm-hmm.
Because he's a good homesteader.
Yeah. I do watch his stuff. But he's up in Wisconsin.
Yeah, that's where I am. I'm about an hour and a half away from Carrie.
He has a lot more water, and the skills that he uses don't really apply to where I'm going to be, because I'm going to the desert. So I watch a lot of. There's a YouTube channel called The Green Dream Project, and there are Handyman is one of them. There are several. There aren't that many, for whatever reason. There aren't that many people making YouTube channels off of their Texas homesteads, but there's a lot of Arizona, and a lot of Cochise County, Arizona homesteads resemble what mine is going to look like, because the ground is very similar. They have more rocks in their ground than I will have. But I will have less topsoil because I'm at elevation. So any soil I have out there is going to have to be built through, what's the polite way to say this? Permaculture, not permaculture, composting.
Oh, okay.
Going to be through composting.
And
if I have to go to neighboring farms and buy crap from them, that's what I'm going to do.
Yeah. That's so fun. I just love the process. Now, you mentioned some homesteading or some other YouTube channels you watch. What are some carnivore YouTube channels that Semi-Retired Bob watches? Because I know there's a lot of them. It's hard to watch them all. But
there's a stack of them. I watch with my morning hot drink, whether it's depending on whether or not I'm having coffee or hot water that day. I have some kind of a hot drink first thing in the morning, and I carry that and my phone out into the yard to do my earthing, get my morning sun in the eyes, and I always watch whatever Dave Mack has put out. That's the first thing I watch in the morning.
Dave Mack. All right, we got Dave Mack on the list.
Mm-hmm. And then from there, if Bubba Rob put out a video the day before, that's when I watch Bubba Rob's video. And then from there, as time permits, I watch Ready, Set, Keto. I watch Two Crazy Ketos. I, of course, I've seen everything Dr. Barry's put out, but I rewatch his stuff all the time. I've seen everything Dr. Mason has put out. I've seen every video Dr. Jason Fung has put out. Anthony Chafee, I've seen everything he's put out. And I have his podcasts loaded into my phone so that if I'm driving around doing stuff, I listen to a Dr. Chafee podcast. Dr. Baker, I watch everything he puts out. And then, of course, Carrie and you, and I mean, the list just goes on and on and on. I watch what I can when I can, but as you all know, making content takes up a good bit of time. And I put out a video almost every day. I think I missed 5 days in the last year of putting out a video. So I put out about 360 videos in the last year.
That's amazing.
And that takes a lot of time on top of everything else that I'm doing. Like this morning, well, not this morning, this afternoonish, I sealed the floor of my trailer. And then tomorrow, during the time when I get to it, I'm going to go back out and I'm going to sand it down again now that I've got all the wood putty in. And then after I get it sanded down, I have some spray foam that I'm going to put in the corners to make sure that's all sealed up, because I didn't worry about it so much when I was in North Carolina. But I'm moving to the land of tarantulas and scorpions and rattlesnakes. So I don't want any holes in my camper that they could crawl through.
Absolutely not. That's get all the holes sealed up first, and then you can sleep with a little bit more comfort.
Right.
Yeah. Now I get this question. I see these people who aren't on carnivore get very curious. People who are on carnivore, and with this question, how has being a carnivore personally helped your life? Like an elevator pitch. I know we went over some benefits, but what would like an elevator pitch for you personally be?
16 and a half months ago, I was sitting in the house waiting to die. I couldn't stand. I couldn't move. I was taking a massive amount of prescription medications every day. Now I take none. I walk every day. I do anything that I want to do. I lift weights. I dance. What more do you need to know?
That's great. Yeah. No, seriously, guys, he's killing it. Oh, yeah. I want to bring up your channel here. Almost forgot, Bob.
Oh, that's okay.
Here we go. You guys, check out his channel. Look at that. Dude, you don't even look like the same guy, Bob. I'm telling you, you look totally different. It's amazing. 6 months carnivore, I lost a few pounds. Yeah, man, look at that. You don't even look like the same guy. Holy moly, wow. You look amazing, Bob. You guys go smash the subscribe button. I'm just not signed in right now, but I am subscribed to Bob's channel. He's got a great channel. Yeah, look at that, man. Compared to there. How do you feel now? I suppose like a million times better?
There isn't really any comparison. I mean, before I was just existing, and now I'm living. It's nothing hurts anymore. Like I said, I can't tell you the last time I took a pain pill. I still have one over here. I have one in my jar, in my thing. It's a tramadol. It's like a reminder.
Yeah. That's great. It's like gives you some fuel. You know, like, yeah, that's the stuff I used to be on. Here's a question here for you, Bob, from Twin Maples. Thank you for the question. What kind of critters are you considering for your homestead?
I'm going to start where everybody starts. I'm going to get some chickens.
Chickens.
But not for eggs. I may get chickens this year. Some meat chickens. Because you can raise meat chickens on straight feed. Just get basically a little wire cage to put them in. It takes about 8 weeks to raise a meat chicken from a chick to harvest age.
It's a lot of
So
growing.
I feed them for 8 weeks and then butcher them, wrap them up, throw them in my freezer, and I got 10 of them make a year's worth of chicken for me because I just don't eat that much chicken. But if that is successful, down the line next year, I may try and build something where I can do 40 or 50 meat chickens. And then from there, I can take those once they're harvested. And while it will be several years before I'm ready to do any other kind of animal, perhaps I can go to somebody and say, hey, you got pork, I got chicken. I'll give you 20 pounds of chicken for 10 pounds of pork.
Do some trading.
Or 20 pounds of chicken for 10 pounds of beef.
Mm.
And then from there, once I feel I'm comfortable with doing that, I'm going to probably goats and sheep. And then if that experiment goes well, I'll maybe try and get some pigs going. I'll probably try and get some ducks going. And then after all is said and done, like I said, I've got 10 acres. At some point, I'd like to try my hand at raising a cow or 3. Because being able to raise and harvest my own beef would be the ultimate carnivore farm.
Absolutely. Man, I love your goals, Bob. Coyotes are going to be interested. Get a solar panel powered chicken netting fence. Never heard of that.
Yeah, I've seen them. I'm going to be doing lots of that stuff. But basically, building a chicken coop out of hardware cloth and having it well supported should keep coyotes out. Because
what about hawks? She says.
Yeah, well, it's completely and totally enclosed. You can make a chicken coop, and hardware cloth is like chicken wire, except the holes are only about a 1/4 inch big instead of the bigger one. And if you build a firm base around the bottom and a wood frame for the whole thing, and then dig down and sink the hardware cloth about 3 or 4 inches into the ground, as well as around the walls, that will keep things from burrowing under to get in as well.
I wouldn't have thought about that. Now, here's a fun one. Would you take $1 million to go back to the old way of eating, or would you take nothing to stay on the carnivore diet? Dave Mack asked that one.
Who asked that one?
Dave Mack. I got that question from him. Would you take $1 million to go back to your old way of eating, or would you just stay on carnivore for free?
What would I do with $1 million if I'm dead?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm convinced that it wouldn't take very long to go back to the way I was eating. My arthritis would come back, my spinal stenosis would come back, my diabetes would come back, my fatty liver and my kidney disease would all come back, and I'd just be sitting around the house waiting to die. I can do that for free.
Yeah, no, for real. I love that answer. Before we wrap up, because we're getting near the end here, what's something that's on your heart that you want to speak about to the people watching?
What are you waiting for? If you're watching this and you haven't started yet, what are you waiting for? What's the worst thing that can happen? For me, I thought the worst thing that could happen is it would kill me. It didn't do that. In fact, it's on the opposite end. Whatever the opposite of didn't kill me is, that's what it did for me. If you're watching this and you have already started, remember 1% better every day. You can't expect everything to heal immediately. You did not get sick overnight. You will not heal every night. Just keep putting one foot in front of the other one. Walk a little more each day. Make your diet a little cleaner each day. Just try to get 1% better every day. And that's my primary message. It's never too late to change your life. I'm 60 years old. I can do it. With all the medical problems I had for 40 years, you can do it too.
Man, that is so inspirational. I love that, man. You guys, Bob has been a blast here. And we even talking Homestead. I didn't even see that coming. And I just love talking Homestead. So, dude, I had a blast with you. Would you come back on sometime?
Sure. Just send me an email and set it up. I don't know exactly when I'm leaving for Texas, but once I get internet set up down there, I'll be right back on doing daily content. Like I said, there may be a little bit of a lag in there because I don't know I want to try to do the local internet first because that's only going to be $35 to $50 a month as opposed to I think Starlink is like $130 a month, which is a lot more money for an old retired guy on a fixed income.
Yeah.
So to make sure I can afford Starlink, everybody that's watching this needs to go to my channel and subscribe. Yes. And then watch all of my videos all the way through. That's the best support. If you find a YouTuber that you want to support, yes, there's ways to donate to them. But the best way to support them is to subscribe to their channel and watch their videos from beginning to end every time they put one out. Hit the like button and leave a comment down below. That's the very best support you can give anybody.
You guys, if you could do that for Bob, man, he would really appreciate it because then you're going to get to see all this homestead and stuff. He's got he's just starting his journey, you guys, man, and he's feeling better than ever. I'm excited to watch you, Bob. I really am.
I'm excited to see if I can actually do it.
I know you can. You've got the mindset and you've got the drive, man. If you can reverse all those health problems you had, and I guarantee you got the info in those books and on YouTube, you're going to be a great homesteader, Bob. I have no doubt about it.
I hope so. Maybe I can talk Carrie into coming down and building stuff for me.
Hey, there you go. Yeah. Hey, send an invite to me too. I'd love to come and hang out, man. Absolutely. I love Homestead. So,
you have to bring a trailer because I got no place to put anybody right down there right now. I mean, it's an empty chunk of land, but anybody's pretty much welcome to come down and hang out on the bare land.
Cool. Yeah,
I got 10 acres. You could stay there and I wouldn't even have to see you for a week or 3.
I'll take you up on that sometime, Bob, for sure. But we've come to the end here. You guys, my coach would say repetition is the first law of learning. So please replay this video all the way through, like Bob said, because you might even miss something looking at your phone or something. So you want to get all the good info and have all the fun you can. We had some laughs here. We got some good info, some great tips for carnivores. You guys, Bob has really given me some really good answers to all the questions I asked him today. So please replay this back. But that's it for today. He said he'd come back in the future. So look forward to that. I'll be sending out some invites for the Friday night carnivore hangout. So you can always come pop on in on a Friday. That would be cool. But that is what we got here for this episode, you guys. Lucia, Twin Maples, everybody, Bubba, thank you guys for watching. I appreciate you guys. I love you guys. And we'll see you at the next one, okay? I'll do my duck face on the way out. Thanks, Bob.